Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this bright, sunny Tuesday afternoon. I'm your guest host today, Tom Kahn, filling in for Councilman O, who could not join us today due to the official business of serving the citizens of Philadelphia. He is actually at a hearing right now on property assessments. So if you want to tune into that, you could also get on your computers and look up PHL.gov.TV, and you can see all the live hearings and briefings and what goes on in City Council. So big shout out to Councilman O, working very hard today. I want to thank last week's guests who joined us for a very fun and informative interview show last week. Mr. Joel Austin, founder and CEO of Daddy University, Inc., who was talking about fatherhood. Father Day is coming up next week, and it was a very nice interview with Mr. Austin. And we want to thank Rob Bernberg, co-owner of Latin Beat Magazine, talking about Siempre Salsa Philly. So thank you very much for joining us and tuning in last week. Just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Weinerman Pain and Wellness. They are located at the Land Title Building, 100 South Broad Street, Suite 1800B. You could reach them at 215-988-9503. So welcome, everyone. We have a very great show lined up for you today with three very impressive guests. We have Mr. James W. Hale Jr. from Goldman Sachs, who will be talking about 10,000 small businesses. It's an initiative that he is spearheading through Goldman Sachs and is based in Philadelphia. We will also talk to Christopher Mann, actor. Many of you know him for his role in The Wire as playing a councilman, actually. You could check that out. He's in about, I believe, maybe 12 episodes or so. And we also have Mr. Jim Donahue. He is the president of the William Penn Chapter, U.S. Army, and he'll be talking to us about Stripes and Stars Festival that is going to happen in Philadelphia. Well, first, I'd like to welcome Mr. James Hale Jr. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Now, Mr. Hale currently serves as the Director of Partnerships and Outreach in the Goldman Sachs 10K Small Business Initiative. Mr. Hale, what is the 10 Small Business Program, 10,000?
10,000 Small Business Program is an educational program designed to help small business owners grow their business economically, create jobs from within, and keep business owners working on their business strategically, but not working in their business tactically.
So that's an interesting point there. When did the program start?
The program originally started in the United States about 9 years ago. Prior to that, it started in Europe. It was called 10,000 Small Business Wing, and it covered Europe and Africa. It came to the United States about 9 years ago at LaGuardia Community College in New York, and then it spread. There are 14 sites around the U.S., from California, Salt Lake City, Cleveland, Detroit, as well as Houston, Dallas, Rhode Island, New York City, obviously, Rhode Island, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Miami. And there's also what's called the national cohort, where there's 200, normally people are called students, we call them scholars. Mm-hmm. They do the internet. Mm-hmm. And the program was designed by Babson College of Boston. Babson is considered one of the best entrepreneurial colleges in the world. And they partnered up with Goldman Sachs to develop a customized, unique program that's geared towards practical business tools and practical business processes So this is not my MBA or my kid's MBA
Mhm.
or your parents' MBA.
Mhm.
This is an entirely different program that doesn't deal with theoretical concepts that students have to figure out how it fits in their business. These are all practical business tools that what you learn the day of class, you take back the next day and share with your staff and coworkers and utilize them.
Now, how many small businesses have taken advantage of this program that you have so far?
Well, within the Philadelphia tri-state area, we've graduated 403 within 5 years. Nationally, there's something about somewhere around 7,900.
Wow, that's and did you get involved when the program came to America? Were you the starting member to?
Philadelphia was the 8th site to start up.
Okay.
I was one of the original instructors, so I started off as an instructor,
Mhm.
teaching what's called Mod 7 operations and processes.
Now, the Philadelphia program is based in CCP, correct?
Community College of Philadelphia is where the courses are taught.
And how long has it been going on in community college?
At 5 years. It was decided by Babson and Goldman Sachs for small business owners to feel more comfortable to have all of these programs given at community colleges around the U.S.
Now, is there an intense selection process? Because I know other schools and buildings and companies, they would love to host something like this, in their building or their company. And was there like a submission or a selection process, or how did that work?
To my knowledge, it was very intense in terms of the selection of schools. And from what I understood, in Philadelphia, Mayor Nutter, Michael Nutter, was the champion who went after this program for Philadelphia. I know Goldman Sachs looks for strong community colleges, and they're also looking for a large base of small businesses, as well as a support system in terms of financial investment companies and loan companies. And in our case, we partner with Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation within Philadelphia PIDC. And they're also looking for a strong commerce department that would support this program. So we apparently had all of the right criteria, and that's why we got this program.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, Philadelphia, being such a diverse, with many different nationalities, and many of the immigrants owning small businesses, is there like a language barrier, or what most of the business that are involved in this program? How do we cater to that as far as the diversity and
From what I understand, your question to be, we have not had a problem with language.
Okay.
Our program ranges from Harrisburg to Philadelphia, through the entire state of Delaware, and through South Jersey. If you look at our alumni, it cuts across all broad ethnic groups. So we've had no problems in terms of language issues.
Because in Philadelphia, there is a Philadelphia Small Neighborhood Business Council. And this is something that I think that group would love to take advantage of. But I understand that there's quite a few language barriers, many Asian American, Hispanics, and so if they would want to get involved in something like this, would there be interpreters available, or?
If there are issues with the language barriers, those groups would know it and would provide interpreters. So, for example, I partner with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Next week, I'll be doing an outreach session at Vista, Peru, with a group of Hispanic business owners. Also, I will be on a panel for the Hispanic Chamber next week also at Community College, talking about how to get contracts through corporate America, because my background is in purchasing.
So you have a CPM. That is, for those who don't know, Certified Purchasing Manager. Until I read Mr. Hill's bio, sorry, but I didn't even know you need a certificate to purchase things. What can you explain to our listeners? Get into some detail about becoming a certified purchasing manager. What exactly is that?
Well, lots of changes have occurred over time, and purchasing professionals are considered high-level executives. My background is I'm a former director of purchasing for Tastykake.
Oh.
I'm a former director of purchasing for a satellite TV company that was located right down the street in Ballacumony called Primestar, that was owned by Comcast, Time Warner, and TCI at Denver.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to move up and to be effective, just like being a certified accountant, there's a number of tests you go through, and they look at your background, and I'm fairly seasoned. And I've worked for a number of companies such as Nabisco and Scott Paper Company and DuPont, and J&J Splendor Brands. And as you go up, you decide what you want to do for a career, and I decided to go for my CPM.
Oh, that's very interesting.
And this is an international
Okay.
certification,
Okay.
so it's not just U.S.
Now, you have a very, for those that can't see, right in front of me right now, I have Mr. Hale's bio, and trust me, it's a long list of credentials and certificates, and one thing that really stood out to me was Mr. Hale has a certificate in 3D printing, introduction to 3D printing additive manufacturing. 3D printing is something that we used to see in movies. Like, I remember the first time I saw 3D printing was in the movie Fifth Element, where they found a piece of hand after an alien spaceship landed, and they were able to biogenically just 3D print the rest of the body because they had the DNA and everything in that hand. Could you give us a little detail about this 3D printing that's so popular and doing so much for people these days?
Well, in today's manufacturing is not like manufacturing in the past. And 3D printing allows you to take metal, plastics, and even organic materials and digitize the shape of an object and then recreate it using plastic or metal. It's used in medical. Jefferson Hospital is 3D printing kidneys and organs. They're also used as models so you can figure out how to go into an operations. Car parts are made using 3D printing. And it will be the wave of the future in terms of new style manufacturing. And it's parts on demand. So when I worked for several companies, you always have a warehouse and a storeroom with spare parts. Instead of having $2 million worth of parts sitting around, you can 3D print parts when you need them, as opposed to having them sit around collecting dust and wasting money. That's one of the things you have up in the Space Lab. We have a number of our alumni in the Goldman Sachs program, like architects. They use 3D printing. I just talked to Rich Goldberg from Sapien Rudolph, who is also one of our alumni, and he has a 3D printer, and it helps people make models of different things, and then you can see how they look, and then you can make the real things. I mean, they're good for making models. Right now, they're not overly great for doing mass productions.
Okay. Well, that's bad news for antique car owners, I think, because the reason why these antique cars were so expensive were because of the parts. I mean, they had to manufacture not just the parts, but they had to manufacture the machine to make the parts. Then they had to make the part for this car. But with 3D printing, you just skip that whole process, and you're just able to.
Well, you
pretty much-
you still have to make a machine that makes it, but it's different, yes.
Okay.
And if you take that example, it's very similar to our program, in that entrepreneurs tend to spend a lot of time working in their business, fighting fires and being very tactical. And our program is designed to give them support. So, example, we provide one-on-one business advisors to our scholars for the duration of the program. Our program differentiates itself from all other programs because of that
One-on-one.
one-on-one. We also provide what's called peer learning. Everybody learns from each other. Everybody in business thinks they're the only ones that have problems, but in reality, they all have the same problems. They call something different. Babson provides practical business tips, practical business products and tools. The instructors are also subject matter experts like I am, and who have worked with hundreds and thousands of small business owners. So now you have somebody who understands and teaching the practical business tips. And then we have wonderful clinics after you graduate. So we cover a deeper dive into going from your dream to reality. And everybody has dreams, but you don't know how well you can implement that dream. And our business advisors and our instructors will help you validate and value the best growth opportunity, and then work on the implementation plan. And that's the piece that everybody misses.
Right.
So we go into a very deep dive. So at the end of 13 weeks, which is spread over 3 months, you now have a growth plan. You now understand your financial. You now understand the importance of your employees. You are the leader. You start thinking differently. So part of our program is to get you have a different mindset, a strategic mindset versus a day-to-day mindset. And you start thinking about the future. You're thinking about technology, such as 3D printing, to use in your business. And when you think about our growth plans, you can take it to any bank or any investor, and we have a reputation that it is very tight, and the scholar knows what they're talking about. So they get loans very easily. We bring in bankers who will teach you how to get loans. We bring in investors who will listen to your elevator pitch.
Now, this is for existing businesses. It wouldn't be
Yes.
someone who's starting a small
We
business.
do not deal with startups. To apply for the program, you must be a business owner or co-owner. You must have been in business at least 2 years. You must have a minimum of 4 employees, including yourself, and it can be a combination of full-time equivalents, part-timers, temps, and/or consultants. And you must have a minimum of $150,000 in revenue. And we go up to about 12 million. Could go higher if you're like construction or production. I'm taking applications for the September 6 classes, and application deadline will be done on June 18th. All classes are at Community College of Philadelphia. And the best part about this program is it's free. You pay nothing.
Do you hear that, everyone? It's free.
Goldman Sachs will provide you a scholarship. That's why it's competitive to get in. The only thing you pay is $6 for parking, and parking is right next door to the building at
And that's
Community
cheap.
College of Philadelphia.
Right.
At 1700 Callahan Street. And we even provide breakfast and lunch during the day of class. And the class is all day Fridays. And as the schedule looks, will be probably every other Friday, sometimes 2 Fridays in a row, spread out over 13 weeks. But it's free.
That is priceless. It's free, and lunch and breakfast is provided, and they're teaching you how to make more money, how to, upgrade your business, and So 13 weeks, how many times out of the year do you do this?
We run 3 cohorts,
Okay.
usually in January, May, and September.
All right, so how can people get in contact with you? Do you have a website, social media?
They can call us at 267-299-5900. They can go to a website called 10K Apply, the number 10, KSBAPPLY.com. So that's 10KSB for 10K Small Businesses Apply.com. Or they can also go to the Philadelphia Community College website and look for 10K SB. Some of our graduates you would know. They would include Daniel Stern from R2L Restaurant, Rich Goldberg from Sapien Rudolph, I. Goldbergs, LaBus, Victoria's Kitchen up on Old Alney Avenue, Howard Foreman from Caribbean Feast.
Wow.
So we have a number of people. We've included Muslim funeral directors. We have engineers, consultants, marketing, digital marketing, construction, you name it. We've had it. Yoga instructors, dog walkers.
Wow, everything from A to Z.
A to Z.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hale, for joining us today. That was very informative. I hope our listeners could take advantage of this program, this free program, by the way, to help your small businesses. We're going to take a small commercial break here, and we're going to come back with Christopher Mann. Tune in, everyone. Guest host for today on In the Know with David O. I want to thank our listeners for tuning in today. We just had Mr. James Hale, who talked about the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Initiative. Now, don't forget, this is a free program for your business, and the deadline is June the 18th, so it's coming close. You can visit www.10ksbapply.com, or you could call 267-299-5900. We have with us our second guest, Mr. Christopher Mann, who is joining us. Many of you may know him for his role as Councilman Tony Gray in the HBO hit series The Wire. He is an actor from Philadelphia. Also, he has played Lieutenant Elston in Michael Clayton and a number of mainstream works such as The Bourne Legacy, Law and Order, House of Cards, and the list goes on and on and on. Mr. Mann, welcome to the show.
Tom, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Philadelphia being such a rich city with the creative economy, with music, fashion, arts, film. I'm sure there's a lot of listeners just questioning on how did Mr. Mann get into show business? How did he start acting? What made him? How did he get these roles? So let me ask you, how did you get into acting?
It was a long story. I mean, I didn't actually start as a kid, like which I wish I could have. You know, starting in a art school, But I started as an adult, and my first class was with a guy named John Barth. He was right here in Philadelphia. He was known as the original Tidy Bowl Man. And I figured, well, there's nowhere to go up from there. I'm starting in the toilet. If you guys remember the Tidy Bowl. So, but starting there, and then got around to different casting places. I met Mike Lemon and quite a few others. It's a lot of them. Some of them have actually closed now since then. But anyway, started with there. Then started with theater groups. Eventually started traveling cross country to California, doing seminars, classes. I mean, and then I studied 5 years with a gentleman named George DiCenzo. He was a Yale drama graduate who did Broadway and the whole nine. So that was a blessing for me, because where I started from, it wasn't exactly conventional. So, but things happen, when you put your mind to things, the universe works in your favor, and he brought Yale to me. You know what I mean? So, and it was a great experience.
Right, because a lot of these Hollywood actors, they've actually been, before they got that big role,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they had, you know, I know Samuel Jackson, he had many little roles before he broke out into Pulp Fiction. I remember seeing him on Coming to America.
Actually, I remember him in True Romance, if you know that one. That was like one of Tarantino's first movies
Wow.
years ago, and he's got a small spot in there. But I know that road too.
They do a lot of roles, and then they come out into this breaking role.
Yes.
And then, you know, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely.
After that.
Absolutely.
Now, after you get into acting, I'm sure you look for auditions. You look for who's looking for what, casting agencies, things like that. What is an audition like for an actor?
Auditioning is nerve wracking, and it's crazy. I mean, you know, even now, it's not even a second thought to me at the point, but I still don't like it. You know, I mean, because truthfully, at the time when you do an audition, I mean, the material's still new to you, and as an actor, when you're going through your process of creating this character and getting into the emotions and the beats of the scenes and whatnot, it really takes a little while to actually give them the best performance you're going to give them. So, you know, going into an audition, even when you're prepared, you're still not happy because you know you're going to do it much better than this if they allow you to get to that point. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, but it's nerve wracking in that regard because you know, hey man, this is really cold.
Right.
You
Now,
know,
do you get the script beforehand you go into an audition? Or?
in most cases you do, but you may not get any more than a day or two at the most.
Okay.
Okay, so you know, so trying to understand the scenario of the scene, who your character is in relationship with the other characters in those scenes. I mean, you know, a day or two is really not enough time to really get it, you know, soak it in and let it become organic to you.
To become that character.
Organic, yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to put you on the hot seat here.
Okay.
What was the audition process like for The Wire? It was a hit show. Everybody loved it. And you played a councilman on there, by the way. Councilman Tony, right?
I could have used David O for that, man, but I shot it before I met him. I
Right.
met him a couple of cases.
Right, you could have said followed him around.
Exactly.
And, you know, yeah, I understand. But what was the audition process? I'm sure I looked at the cast for The Wire, and it was a long list.
Yes, the Wire had a huge cast. It's funny. It was really almost like a cattle call because when I went down originally, they said that they told everybody that was there that we were reading to play the mayor. And at that time, that was before we knew Glenn Turman was the actual mayor of Baltimore at the time, playing the role. And so we all thought we really were going to read for the mayor but they already had Glenn Turman in that spot. So what it was they were actually kind of like sifting through all the talent to see who they thought could play these different roles that we didn't even know about at the time. So I read like 3 times for that role over maybe a 2-3 month period, and usually by that time you're like, dude, this thing is done. I'm not getting anything out of this, you know. So I finally, one day I did get a call from the production office, and they wanted to offer me this possible reoccurring role as a council member. I'm sure, fine, yeah, I want to work. That's actors want to work. We got to eat.
Right.
So I had no idea it was going to turn into 12 episodes.
Right.
I had no idea I was going to be running for mayor the whole 9, but
Right.
it turned out to be a great piece for me.
Yeah, that's a great body of work.
Yeah.
Now, as an actor, you're working on the set. You're taking orders from the directors. You're probably, receiving the script, and sometimes you read this stuff. Sometimes you say this is great, but sometimes I'm sure you're like, am I supposed to say this or right?
Hey, it's funny because like a lot of times my wife actually auditions with me. Like if I have to do a tape read, and we'll look at the material and say, "Man, this is so backwards."
Right.
And she'll go and we'll play with it, but we try to give them exactly what
Right.
they have on paper. But like when you're working on set, there are certain people that that you can actually approach, and like on the independent level, a lot of times you talk to those directors, them and say, "Hey, look, how about let's try it this way?"
Right.
But on a professional set, you can do that. I mean, on The Wire, there were several times that I may have added a line or two, and they kept it.
Oh, really?
They didn't bother. Yeah. But then there's certain people that you get a little intimidated by. Like I worked on Mindhunter. David Fincher. He did Gone Girl.
Oh, wow.
The girl with the dragon tattoo.
Okay,
And
yeah,
This guy's
yeah.
phenomenal director, and he's really anal.
No.
I'm, you know, in a good way because
Right.
he thinks he's just a perfectionist.
Right.
So you know, when you get on the set with a guy like that, you know he already knows what he wants. So it's like, okay, I don't think I'm going to question him on this. We just want
Right.
to give it the best we can and just work with what he wants. You know what I mean?
So there are times where you can make suggestions to directors. And
Sometimes.
it's almost like, you know, assistant chef telling Wolfgang Puck to.
That's too much salt, buddy.
Yeah. Or that's just a tad too much butter there, sir. Or, you know,
Exactly.
but the feedback, it's pretty in general. It's
Yeah, it was good when you can actually do that, you know,
Okay.
because you know you guys can get a viewpoint on what exactly
Right.
this character is supposed to be doing in this scene, and yeah,
Right, as long as you're not overstepping
Oh,
your boundary,
no,
right?
no,
But I
no.
think the chemistry is needed, though, right?
Yeah, I think so. I
Right.
think so. Yeah.
So, what kind of advice can you give to up and coming actors, and after talking, you know, going to the audition, like how would they if they want to say they want to be a part of The Wire 2025, you know, and say, you know, how do they even go about getting casted? Where do they go? What website do they see? I mean,
Oh well, I mean, once you've gotten to the point where you feel as though you're ready to go work, you have to find yourself an agent or a manager.
okay,
Agents and managers, they get breakdowns from the production companies. Once they see something that matches you, they'll submit you to that casting office, and if the producers, because it's a long process. The producers come in, they hire the casting agency. Casting agency sends breakdowns out to the agents and managers. They submit their people for the roles that they see. The casting office shows the producers, hey, these are the people that were submitted for these roles. They decide who they want to come in. You know what I mean? So it's a long process, you know, for you to even get to that point to
Right.
even read for it. But yeah, as an actor who's looking for work, you get representation that's going to submit you and pray on it. You know, just to get there. I mean, you know, it's
Right.
up to you. After the only thing you have control over is your performance. That's
Right.
all you have control over.
now how is it different from being on film and versus like you said you did like a musical or something or plays?
I've done plays,
Right.
in minimal. I don't do a lot of them, but
Okay.
yeah, it's a big difference. I mean, you know, film and TV, you repeat these scenes over
Over.
and over and over. They change the
Right.
lighting, they change a whole lot of different things on the set. So, like David Fincher, I just mentioned him.
Mhm.
Like for him, like on one take, he'll do 25 shots for one take. And then they say, okay, we got to change the angle. We're going to get you a close up. We're going to get that. And there's 25 to 25 shots every time he shoots a scene.
The same thing.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, not everybody's that, you know, you know that perfectionist. They're not that hard on what they're doing. But he is unbelievable. You know, I mean, but it was fun for me because it's like a drill. You know, what I mean, it's like,
Right.
can you handle this? You know what I mean? And that's what you want to be able to say. Hey, look. Anything you give me, I'm ready for it. Let's do it. You know what I mean? So, you know, for me, I took it as a challenge, and it was great.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I understand you do some independent work. You're a producer as well.
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
Some stuff like I'm looking at here: the North Star, Underground Kings, Voiceless. What are some of your independent projects coming up?
Some of them are coming up right now. As a matter of fact, we did a film called What Death Leaves Behind. I did it with a group called Smash Entertainment. We had 2 screenings here in Philadelphia. They're actually going to have one in D.C. on June 14th. It's being shopped. It's a very good movie. It's a psychological thriller. I don't want to give too much information out, but it's a very good piece. That's going to be screened in D.C. at the Miracle Theater on June 14th. I did another film called Loose with Calvin Harrison Jr., Octavia Spencer, Tim Roth, and Naomi Watts. That'll be coming out probably later this year or early next year. Another one that I want to get started, I'm working with a local gentleman, Ty Gray Hill. He wrote,
yes.
He wrote a piece called American Zealot, which is a biopic on Cecil B. Moore.
Nice.
He wants me to play Cecil, and we've talked about it. So I'm going to play Cecil, and we are trying to get the budget for that. If we get that, I think that would be that'd be a killer story to come out of Philadelphia.
Wow.
It really would.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, being a producer of a movie
Mhm.
is not directing.
No.
Are you dipping and dabbing into some?
Well, producers, we bring people together. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I may know somebody who does special effects. You know what I mean? I know somebody who does sound work, or I know somebody, whoever we produce, we bring
Okay.
people together to make the production happen.
Mhm.
So yeah, I do a lot of that. I've been around long enough, so I know enough people. And as a matter of fact, one film that I did, what's the name with Joshua Coates, But Deliver Us from Evil. I helped him financially, found some people to help come in and help finish getting the budget together for that film, because sometimes in the independent world, you might get started and find out, we didn't have enough. So you got to go out and find more, financial backing to finish the project. So I help with those things too sometimes,
Yeah.
if I could find the money.
That must
that's
be fun.
Yeah, well, that's why American Zealot hasn't started yet, because we need to
Right.
get that funding for that.
Yeah, because I used to see films,
Mhm.
and I would see things like produced by Jerry Bruckheimer.
Oh, yeah.
And then later on, you find out he's not the director, or he's not an actor. He's nothing. He's just a producer.
Oh yeah, well.
And they just bring all the elements together.
That's right,
Okay.
right. Now, if you see executive producer, that's usually the money guys. Okay, so you see executive producer, those are money people. If you see producers, associate producers, and all that, those are the people who are just bringing in all the assets they need.
So
to make it happen.
all you upcoming actors out there and filmmakers, the important part to watch are the credits and see who the executive producers are at the end of the film.
That's true.
Okay, but before we go into commercial break, how can people get in contact with them, and how can people follow you, your social media handle, and all that stuff?
All right, well, I'm on Facebook. It's under Christopher Mann. Just use my name. On Twitter as Mr. Seaman, and on Instagram as Seaman Senior, CMANNSR Senior.
Okay, and you could catch Mr. Mann, of course, on the great hit show, The Wire. He is Councilman Tony Gray. Thank you for joining us today and sharing all this good information with us. We're going to go into commercial break, and we will be back with Mr. Jim Donahue, who will be talking about the Stripes and Stars Festival. Tune in, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to In the Know with David O. June 5th, 2018, Tuesday. We just had Christopher Mann, actor known for his roles in The Wire, Born Legacy, Law & Order, House of Cards. Don't forget to check out his social media and his website, and follow him. Local actor doing good things for the city, helping out up-and-coming artists. Give him a shout out, Christopher Mann. Right now we have Mr. Jim Donahue in the seat with us today. Mr. Donahue will be talking about the Stripes and Stars Festival. Philadelphia will be celebrating the shared birthday of two of our country's greatest institutions, the American flag and the United States Army. Here to talk about that, we have Mr. Jim Donahue. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Thomas. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Now, you're the president of the William Penn chapter of the Association of the United States Army. And before we get into details about the festival, could you briefly tell our listeners what that is and a little history about that?
Certainly. The Association of the United States Army is a professional association. It's almost 70 years old. It was originally organized by Congress back in the early 50s, but it soon thereafter transitioned to a privately held not-for-profit. And over the years, its mission has remained relatively the same, and that is to be the voice for the Army to the general public. And when I say voice for the Army, I mean the entire Army family. It includes not only the people who are on active duty, but it also includes reservists, National Guard members, civilian employees, of which there are far more civilian employees than there are actual people that wear the uniform. It includes family members, because when you join the Army, whether as a uniform-wearing individual or if some member of your family is employed by the Army, that family, in effect, joins the Army, too. They have to adjust to certain demands that are placed on the individual. There's also veterans, anybody who served, retirees, anybody who served long enough to qualify to receive a pension. So that's the full gamut of the Army family. So the Association of the United States Army represents that entire constituency. And right now, the national president is retired General Carter Ham. He took over about a year and a half ago from General Gordon Sullivan, who was the national president for about 18 years. And General Sullivan had been the chief of staff of the Army when he was on active duty. So our pedigree includes some of the senior leaders of the Army when they were on active duty, and they've just transitioned to this professional association. So I often tell people that if you're a chemist, you belong to the American Chemical Society. If you're a doctor, you belong to the American Medical Association. If you're in the profession of arms, you belong to the Association of the United States Army, because it's a professional development agency as well as an advocate. Being in the Army is like anything else. It's like being an actor. It's like being a business development professional. It's like being a teacher or a carpenter. It's a profession, and the profession is a very dynamic field. So things are radically different now than they were even 25 or 30 years ago. When we transitioned to an all-volunteer Army from the conscripted Army that was put together as a result of the draft, the nature of being in the Army, the nature of being in the service altogether changed dramatically. People had to worry about quality of life issues. It used to be before you were drafted. You were in a barracks, and your drill instructor told you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Now, soldiers are looked upon to assert a little bit more independence. They're expected to take more initiative, and that's been the key to success of the American Army as opposed to some of the other armies around the world. But as a consequence, you're looking for higher quality individuals, and you have to treat them accordingly. I mean, one of our earlier guests mentioned about the value of employees. You talk about the Army and all of the equipment that they have, the millions and billions of dollars that are invested in equipment and munitions and all kinds of vehicles of every description. The single most important asset in the United States Army is the soldier. So if you don't take care of the soldier, you're not going to be successful. So,
Absolutely. Well, that's a big responsibility there you have. And on top of that, we have to add on this wonderful Stripes and Stars Festival. That's another responsibility there. What is going on that is so important, that is so exciting on June the 14th, Thursday?
June 14th. Well, it's besides being my son-in-law's birthday.
Okay.
He was the first one to marry my daughters. So
Okay.
one of my daughters. So we got to give him a little shout out.
Okay.
Anyway, officially, the United States Army celebrates its birthday on June 14th, which is the actual day that the Continental Congress
Right.
authorized the formation of the Continental Army, the predecessor of the United States Army. Coincidentally, 2 years later, that very same Congress authorized the creation of the American flag. And by happy coincidence, both events happened within about 500 yards of each other in the Independence Hall, which was where the Continental Congress met. And just a few blocks away, Betsy Ross's house was where the first flag was created.
Right.
So about 8 years ago, an Army captain at the time, Kevin Boyd, was stationed here in Philadelphia as the commander of one of the recruiting companies here in Philadelphia. And as is our practice in the AUSA, we try to get to know the few active duty Army who come on duty in the city area. So upon meeting him, he was I think he was from Michigan, so this is his first time in Philadelphia, and he says, I'm fascinated. This is a great place, great historical significance. But tell me something, how come you people don't make more of a big deal over the fact that on the very same day, the flag and the Army both began, and just 2 years apart? We're going to make a big deal out of this. And coincidentally, the Army Chief of Staff at the time had just taken office, General Ray Odierno, and he had charged his staff. He said, I'm tired of my Marine Corps friends making a big deal out of the Marine Corps birthday. Not to diminish the significance of the Marines, but really they're the youngest service, they're the smallest service, but they have the biggest birthday celebration. We're the Army, we're the biggest service, we're the senior service. We should have just as big a celebration. So armed with that information and Kevin Boyd's observations about the city of Philadelphia, we reached out, and here the Flag Day Association of Philadelphia was already celebrating or recognizing Flag Day with ceremonies at the Betsy Ross House. So we put our heads together and welcomed into the coalition the National Constitution Center, which is on the north end of Independence Mall, the National Park Service that runs Independence National Park, including Independence Hall, and also the Betsy Ross House and Christ Church, all major institutions. So they joined up with the Philadelphia Flag Day Association and AUSA William Penn chapter. And for the first couple of years, it was sort of a nondescript amalgamation, and then we created this Stripes and Stars logo, which is a variant on the traditional Stars and Stripes, but the stripes are a stylized version of 3 NCO stripes, and of course the stars are from the union of the flag, and it incorporates the Philadelphia skyline, and it mentions Independence National Park because that's where it all happens, in the park or immediately adjacent to the park at Betsy Ross House. And
Now, there's a long list of events here, and everything looks very exciting. You have everything from professional skydiving to a naturalization ceremony, swearing in of Army recruits, the giant flag folding activities. Name some of the...
There you go. You've just ticked off a couple. We're very fortunate this year. We have with us the United States Army Precision Drill Team. They'll be performing 4 times on the mall. The first one will be at 10:30, immediately prior to kickoff to the Grand Parade that will move from the north end of the mall to Independence Hall, where we'll have the opening ceremony, the raising of a special flag, a salute to the recognition of the Army birthday. We have the youngest soldier and the oldest soldier who will cut the Army birthday cake, the Army song, and it'll be topped off on the mall by a skydiving demonstration. Then we'll move, the future soldiers are going to have lunch. The generals who are going to be with us will have lunch with the future soldiers. And then we'll move to Betsy Ross